You know how the internet felt like this frontier, and now it feels like it's shifting all over again.
Yeah, definitely. Things move so fast.
Right. And right at the edge of this new wave are, creators, artists, musicians, writers, and they're finding these totally new ways to connect and, crucially, to get paid.
Moving beyond the old models, the traditional gatekeepers.
Exactly. Forget those for a minute. And you, listening, you're probably exploring this space too, yeah. Trying to figure out these new opportunities without getting, totally lost in the jargon.
It can be a lot to take in, for sure.
So let's just jump straight in. This deep dive, it's all about crypto collabs, how creators are earning in Web3.
And what's really fascinating here, and I think something you'll appreciate if you've been looking into this, is just the sheer speed of innovation. It's incredible. We're not just seeing, minor tweaks here. Blockchain tech is genuinely unlocking entirely new ways for creators to collaborate and generate income. Things that just, they weren't possible before.
Exactly. And today, we're going to try and unpack some really cool real-world examples. We're talking musicians totally changing how they release albums using NFTs.
Oh, yeah.
Big brands stepping into the metaverse alongside these NFT communities.
Right, the big players getting involved.
And even brand new platforms that are completely rethinking how fans and creators interact.
So consider this your shortcut, maybe, to really understanding of what's actually happening.
Yeah, cutting through the hype, getting to the core stuff that matters to you.
And for you, the listener, it's key to understand not just the exciting potential, these, fresh opportunities, but also the actual numbers.
Right, the hard figures.
And the underlying mechanisms making these collaborations really work. We'll be looking at specific figures, breaking down some successful case studies, and also pointing out, some of the hurdles. It's not all smooth sailing.
Definitely not. So, our mission today is pretty straightforward. Take this rapidly changing world of crypto collaborations and just pull out the most crucial information, give you a clear picture of how this is really reshaping the creator economy. You ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay,
so let's unpack this first big shift. One of the most fundamental things we've seen is creators taking direct control.
Control of their work and their earnings. Right?
Exactly. Through their own NFT drops, creating that unique digital asset on the blockchain themselves.
Absolutely. And a perfect early example, you mentioned it before, is the band Kings of Leon. Back in March 2021, they did something really forward-thinking.
Yeah.
They released their album When You See Yourself as an NFT collection.
Yeah, but it wasn't just like a digital download code or something.
No, not at all.
What's fascinating there is how they basically turned different levels of engagement, different perks, into unique digital tokens that fans could actually own.
So what kind of things are we talking about?
Well, some NFTs had special album art. Others gave access to, exclusive bonus tracks.
Okay.
And some even held the potential for future concert tickets. Things like that.
Right. So tangible benefits tied to the digital token. And the numbers were pretty significant, weren't they?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Really significant. In just a few days of this NFT minting, they brought in somewhere between, $1.45 million and $2 million.
Wow. In a few days.
Yeah. But here's where it gets really interesting, I think. They actually donated over $500,000, $500,000 of that, to their own crew members.
Oh, right, because they were struggling during the pandemic shutdown.
Exactly. So you see creators directly supporting their own ecosystem.
That's powerful. It wasn't just about making money for themselves.
No, and it signaled this shift. It wasn't just about scarcity. Fans could own a piece of the experience, not just, stream the music. It forged a deeper connection.
A more valuable connection, maybe.
Potentially, yeah. And it showed artists could bundle real value and experiences and capture a much bigger slice of the revenue compared to, the old record label models.
And Kings of Leon weren't totally alone in this early phase, right? Weren't there others?
No, definitely not. We also saw artists like Grimes and Shawn Mendes jumping into NFTs around the same time, doing their own successful drops.
Okay. And what were they offering? Similar things?
Sort of, but with their own twists. Grimes, for instance, often included really unique digital art alongside her music, created these very limited edition bundles.
Right.
And Shawn Mendes, he bundled in things like virtual meet and greets, VIP access type stuff.
So mixing digital and access-based perks.
Exactly. And collectively, these artists also netted millions, often getting paid directly in crypto like Ethereum, which underpins a lot of this.
It really proved, didn't it, that fans were actually willing to pay a premium for these limited digital items.
Yeah, absolutely.
And crucially, for that shift in power we talked about, these deals often happen on peer-to-peer marketplaces.
Cutting out some of those traditional middlemen. If you connect this to the bigger picture, you really see a fundamental change starting. How creators can monetize, how they build direct relationships with their audience, just leveraging this new tech.
Okay, so that's individual creators taking the reins, but it didn't start there. Building on this idea, direct fan support through digital assets, then we started seeing the big guys getting involved.
Yeah, the established brands.
Recognizing the power of this new way of doing things.
And this is where it gets really interesting, I think, because it shows a much broader recognition. The potential of NFTs and Web3 to engage consumers in totally new ways.
So who's a big example here?
Well, take Adidas. December 2021, they launched their Into the Metaverse NFT drop.
Right.
But crucially, it wasn't just Adidas doing their own thing in a silo. They teamed up with some really influential players already in the NFT world.
Like who?
Bored Ape Yacht Club BAYC, which was huge already.
Oh, yeah. Everyone knew BAYC by then.
Right. And Pump's Comic. And the crypto investor G-Money.
Yeah.
Real Web3 natives.
So a proper collaboration. And the scale of that was pretty big.
Remarkable. They sold, get this, 29,620 NFTs.
Wow.
At a price of 0.2 ETH each. Now, ETH fluctuated, but at the time that was roughly $765 per NFT.
Okay, quick math. 29,620 times roughly 765.
Oh, $22 million.
$22 million
Now,
in one weekend.
In one weekend. It just, boom, showed the massive financial potential when brands in these communities come together.
That's staggering.
But Adidas didn't just drop the NFTs and walk away. They went further. They cemented their commitment by actually buying a Bored Ape Yacht Club NFT themselves.
They bought an ape.
Yeah, at number 8774. Paid around 46 ETH for it.
Which was how much in dollars then?
About $156,000 at the time. And they even created this whole metaverse avatar persona for it called Indigo Hearse.
Huh. So it wasn't just about selling to the community. They wanted to be part of the community.
Exactly. Which is fascinating for a major brand like Adidas. They saw the value in actually participating in an existing influential NFT community like BAYC.
And BAYC itself, that's become a phenomenon, hasn't it?
Well, absolutely. A prime example of the kind of cultural shift happening. Total sales for the BAYC collection have gone over $1 billion now.
$1 billion for cartoon apes.
Well, yeah, and at one point, early 2022, the average price for just one ape NFT was around 84 ETH.
Which was?
About $344,000 for one.
It's hard to wrap your head around. What drives that kind of demand? Is it just hype?
Hype plays a role, sure, but a large part of it is that sense of belonging, the shared identity. Owning the NFT often gets you into exclusive online groups, real-world events. It's a status symbol within those.
The digital country club membership?
Kind of, yeah. And then you start seeing huge celebrities get involved.
Right, I remember that.
Eminem.
Snoop Dogg. Paris Hilton.
They weren't just buying them, they were using them as their profile pictures, right?
Yeah.
On Twitter and stuff. Exactly. Using the Bored Ape NFTs as their social media avatars, which of course just massively amplified the brand recognition and the community appeal even more.
Pushed it into the mainstream consciousness.
For sure. Jude, NFTs had potential beyond just, digital art collecting. They could be status symbols, digital identities, community keys.
Okay, so we've got individual creators, we've got big brands collaborating with NFT communities. Now, the landscape's obviously still maturing super fast. What about newer platforms, things specifically designed for these crypto collabs, like Friend.tech?
Yes, and these newer platforms are definitely experimenting with different models for fan engagement, for monetization. Friend.tech has a really interesting approach.
Yeah, tell me about that. It lets creators sell access tokens, right? What do those actually get you?
So if you hold one of these tokens, it grants you access to things like private chats directly with the creator.
Okay, direct access.
Exclusive content that isn't available to, the general public, and in some cases, maybe even a share in the creator's future revenue streams. It creates this sort of layer of exclusivity and direct interaction.
And the buzz around Friend.tech early on was pretty intense. The numbers were big, weren't they?
Yeah, pretty remarkable. Almost $50 million in fees generated in just its first 3 months.
$50 million in fees? But hang on, is that sustainable? Is that just a small, super engaged group driving those fees, or is it showing broader potential?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or the $50 million question.
Huh, yeah.
The initial surge, yeah, probably came from early adopters, a really engaged fan base. But the long-term sustainability, that'll depend on whether they can attract a wider range of creators and fans, and crucially, provide ongoing real value for people holding those tokens.
Makes sense. And we're also seeing the established giants start dipping their toes in. Instagram, for instance.
Right. Rolling out their own digital collectibles toolkit.
What's the significance of that? Is it just them trying to catch up?
Well, partly maybe, but what's really significant about Instagram's move is they're trying to make NFTs way more accessible.
To their huge user base.
Exactly. We're talking over 1 billion users. This in-app toolkit lets certain creators actually create NFTs and lets users buy and sell these digital collectibles right there inside the Instagram app.
Okay, that's potentially huge. Imagine, like, influencers or creators who already have millions of followers on Insta.
Yeah.
Now they have a direct channel. They can offer unique digital stuff to their fans without making them go to some external marketplace or figure out a complicated crypto wallet.
Exactly. That's the potential game changer. By integrating wallet support, maybe gating content based on who owns an NFT, Instagram could really democratize NFT drops, make it much more seamless for everyone involved.
Okay, interesting. So beyond specific platforms, we're also seeing this rise of more like community-driven models in Web3.
Oh, boy.
DAOs, right? Decentralized Autonomous Organizations.
Yes, DAOs. And this represents a really profound shift, potentially. A democratization of funding, of influence, moving power away from traditional gatekeepers and putting it more directly into the hands of the community itself.
So how does a DAO actually work in this context?
Well, essentially, a DAO allows a community, often fans, to pool their capital, their money, together to support creators they believe in.
Okay, like crowdfunding.
Sort of, but it's much more involved than just donations.
Yeah.
Holders of the DAO's specific token often get voting rights.
Voting rights on what?
On things like which projects the DAO should fund or support. And crucially, they can also get a share in the actual revenue generated by those projects.
Revenue? From what?
Could be from streaming, from sales, other sources, whatever the project generates.
So the fans become investors, almost.
In a way, yeah. Forbes even highlighted these ecosystems as maybe the next big wave of disruption in the creator economy, because they really incentivize those early supporters. You don't just get access, you get actual ownership governance rights.
Are there real examples of this working already?
Yeah, we're seeing different forms emerge. You've got DAOs like Friends with Benefits. They provide grants to creators for content.
Okay.
And then you're seeing the beginnings of decentralized music labels, where the token holders actually receive like quarterly payouts based on the label's earnings.
Wow. So it completely changes the fan-creator relationship.
Fundamentally, it shifts from just being transactional, buying a song, a ticket, to one where fans are more like patrons or even, actual stakeholders.
Co-owners, kind of?
Exactly. It lines everyone's incentives in a really powerful way, builds a stronger sense of community, shared success between the creators and their most dedicated supporters.
Okay, so we've covered a lot on how these collabs are happening. Now let's dig into the really crucial part. How are creators actually making money? What are the specific ways income is generated in Web3?
Right, the monetization mechanisms. There's several key ones. The most basic, obviously, is the primary sale.
Just selling the NFT for the first time?
Exactly. When a creator first releases an NFT collection, that initial sale generates direct revenue for them. Simple enough.
Okay. But then there's the royalties thing, right, on secondary markets. That seems like a big deal in Web3. Explain that.
It is, or at least it's meant to be. Most NFTs are programmed with these embedded royalty splits, usually somewhere between, say, 5% and 10%.
Okay.
So the idea is every single time that NFT gets resold later on a secondary marketplace like OpenSea or wherever, a percentage of that sale price automatically gets paid back to the original creator.
Automatically.
Through the code.
Supposedly, through the smart contract. This offers potentially a long-term revenue stream that you just don't get in most traditional digital content sales. Like reselling a used MP3 doesn't pay the artist anything.
Right. I remember hearing there have been problems with actually enforcing those royalties.
Yes. That's been a major challenge, a real sticking point.
That seems like a pretty big setback for the whole creator-first idea of Web3. What happens if royalties aren't protected? Well, it absolutely undermines the incentive, doesn't it? If creators can't rely on benefiting from the ongoing value and trading of their work, it could make them hesitant. They might avoid certain platforms or maybe even question the whole NFT model if they can't count on that secondary income stream. It's a big deal.
Are there solutions being worked on?
There are. You mentioned Yuga Labs earlier, the Bored Ape creators. They've partnered with a marketplace called Magic Eden to try and guarantee perpetual royalties using specific smart contracts.
Okay, so trying to build it more robustly into the code itself.
Exactly. That could be a crucial step towards making sure creators actually keep benefiting.
All right, what else? Beyond primary sales and royalties.
You're also seeing the rise of loyalty programs built on the blockchain.
Loyalty programs like collect points. How's that different in Web3?
Well, these blockchain-based programs have some interesting advantages over the old systems. Take Forbes, actually. They have their own Web3 loyalty program, partnered with the Kibi Foundation.
Oh.
Participants get rewarded with tokens. But these aren't just like locked-in points. They can be redeemed for actual real-world benefits.
Like what?
Gift cards, even airline miles, things with tangible value.
Ah, so the tokens themselves have value and can be used outside the original platform.
Exactly. That fungibility, the ability to exchange them, and the transparency of the blockchain makes these loyalty programs potentially more engaging, more secure maybe. It really bridges that gap between doing stuff in Web3 and getting real-world perks.
Interesting. Okay, so lots of exciting potential, lots of new models, but we need to be balanced here. There are definitely challenges, right? Hurdles still exist.
Absolutely. It's important to acknowledge those. We already talked about the big one, royalty enforcement.
Yeah, the inconsistency there.
That remains a significant hurdle. The fact that major marketplaces have kind of backed away from enforcing them automatically creates a lot of uncertainty for creators.
And what else?
Well, just the fragmentation of the whole space. So many different NFT marketplaces, different blockchains, varying smart contract standards. It can just be really complex and confusing for both creators and buyers to navigate. It's not unified.
Yeah, you need to know where to even look sometimes.
Right. And then beyond the tech side, there are those broader environmental and regulatory concerns.
Ah, yes, the energy usage criticism.
Exactly. The environmental impact of some older proof-of-work blockchains, that's been a big point of criticism. And also the risk of fraud. You hear about rug pulls.
Where the creators just disappear with the money?
Yeah, scams where project creators vanish, leaving investors with worthless tokens. That's a real danger, especially for people new to this space.
And the rules are still being written, basically.
Pretty much. The regulatory landscape is constantly evolving. You've got ongoing debates about power consumption, increasing scrutiny from bodies like the SEC in the US.
Right.
New digital asset tax rules popping up in Europe. All these uncertainties can definitely create headwinds, make things harder for creators and the platforms trying to build this stuff.
So definitely crucial things to keep an eye on. Needs to be addressed for this to really go mainstream sustainably.
Without a doubt.
Okay, so looking ahead then, despite the challenges, what are some of the trends or developments you see shaping the future of these crypto collabs? Where is this heading?
Well, we're already seeing some really interesting things like Genies. They're a big digital avatar company.
Okay.
They launched a $500,000 fashion engagement fund. Basically, they're paying digital designers based on how well their virtual clothing creations perform within the Genies world.
So rewarding creators based on actual usage and traction in the metaverse.
Exactly. It signals a move towards creating more sustainable, ongoing incentive structures for creators within these virtual worlds, not just one-off drops.
It's like a real digital fashion economy starting to bubble up.
Precisely. And for the big brands trying to navigate this, authenticity is going to be key.
Not just jumping on the bandwagon.
No. Genuine community engagement, understanding the culture. Forbes also emphasized that staying on top of the regulatory side will be absolutely crucial for brands doing Web3 marketing. It needs a strategic, compliant approach.
Okay. So ultimately, what's the big picture vision here if this all develops positively?
I think the potential really lies in creating more inclusive, genuinely creator-first economies. As the tools get easier to use, more accessible, we'll probably see more hybrid drops, things that blend physical items with digital ones, more token-gated live events, real-world access tied to NFTs.
And maybe avatars you can use across different games or metaverses.
Interoperable avatars, yeah, that's a big goal. Moving seamlessly between different virtual worlds. But fundamentally, the initiatives that are really going to succeed, the ones that will last, they'll be the ones that truly prioritize the creators and empower the communities built around them.
That makes sense. It has to be about genuine value and community.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that pretty much wraps up our deep dive into crypto collabs, how creators are earning in Web3. We've definitely covered a ton of ground.
Yeah, from those early groundbreaking NFT drops by
To
musicians.
the huge brand partnerships like Adidas and
Yeah.
BAYC.
The innovative new platforms like Friend.tech.
And those community-driven DAO models that are really trying to reshape how creators and audiences connect.
And yeah, while those challenges around royalties, regulations, sustainability, they're definitely real and need solving. The potential for Web3 to just create entirely new ways for creators to earn, to build deeper relationships with their fans, that seems pretty undeniable at this point.
So for you listening, thinking about all these new models, what gets you most excited about the future here? How do you see creators connecting with and being supported by their fans down the line?
Yeah, and with those lines blurring, between digital and physical, what kind of really unique experiences do you think Web3 is going to unlock for both creators and their communities in the next few years?
It's definitely a lot to think about. Hopefully this deep dive has given you a much clearer picture of what's happening right now and where it might be heading.
And it raises that big question for everyone involved. How will these technologies ultimately empower creators? How will they reshape the very fabric of the creative economy?
It's definitely a space ripe with potential and one we'll be keeping a close eye on.